Frodo of the Nine Fingers. We're talking about the animated Return of the King TV movie series. Let's go spoilers just in case you haven't watched it.
Frodo of the Nine Fingers.
You should have did that. So good.
All right, guys, welcome back to As Are with Nick and John. So Rings of Power has been going on. Nick isn't very sold on it. I can't even record talking about it. So we went back to kind of our roots of something that he and I both like. We both love the animated Hobbit. We both, until recently, had never seen the Return of the King animated film, which is done by the same company. There's a lot of history in what that company would become. So we're excited to talk about this and just kind of get into this because Nick had never seen it. I'd only seen it once in the last year. That was my first time viewing it. So this is like pretty fresh experiences for us.
And just so you know, we cover a lot of Lord of the Rings content here.
Yes.
We actually broke down the animated Lord of the Rings series and compared it to the Peter Jackson series, full on man, bear, pig as the Balrog, to, you know, all the fun animated stuff. But we're also covering the new Rings of Power show. And we also did some cool deep fakes on Lord of the Rings too. Check it out. We recasted some iconic actors. But now we're going to talk about Frodo of the Nine Fingers.
Well, you know what? So I kind of was curious what you were going to say about that. And I did have thoughts about that. It's very interesting because one thing to remember going into this. So Nick and I both love the Hobbit animated film, but the same company did not do. So this picks up after the Two Towers, right?
Yeah.
So this is basically the last book, Return of the King, but this same company did not do that section. So at the beginning of the film, they have this huge, like, kind of history lesson on what happened in The Hobbit and the first two books of Lord of the Rings. And they kind of have to get through this big story that's just even Return of the King in this animated film. And, you know, one thing I do like about them kind of doing what Nick was talking about, where they give you, it's almost like a retelling of the story, is, you know, that's one way that people in stories will try and make it feel, it gives some credibility if it's coming from a historical perspective. So they have Bilbo, you know, getting ready to go, you know, to the Grey Havens and everything like that.
Or take a nap.
Yeah, or take a nap, like what I would be doing, taking a nap during Rings of Power. I'm taking a nap, you know, and they're retelling the story of what happened, and it gives a sense of credibility. And I do like that overall as a storytelling device, but it was kind of an interesting way to do it. The whole Frodo and the Nine Fingers, it's like, all right, as an audience we're being told something happened, and then we go through this huge history lesson of how did that happen. And it's a fun storytelling device, but
it makes sense though, because it was for TV.
Yes.
So they had to cram all that info and even previous Lord of the Rings material too in there. Like, you know, it's kind of like a retelling, like, you left it to me and this happened. And then, you know what I mean? So they're kind of doing like a very, very condensed in their already allotted really short time to tell Return of the King as it is. I mean, Peter Jackson extended edition of Return of the King's like 5+ hours, right? Or something crazy like that. So
it's not that.
It's crazy long,
it's
though.
long.
It's crazy
long.
long. And but it's like, you know, I mean, that ending's maybe in 2 hours, but I'm just kidding. But so it's like they're trying to cram all this info and almost like forget about the Lord of the Rings animated series.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I'm sure they would have loved to have actually done Lord of the Rings, the animated series.
Flashback. End of flashback.
And I think they would have done a good job. As I was watching this and seeing them have to rush through the story beats, because you have to imagine, they have to cover these things, but they're having to cover stuff they haven't had the opportunity to animate in the first two Lord of the Rings films. Yeah. And so the characters are going to fall flat because you don't care about Aragorn. They don't even talk about Legolas or Gimli.
No.
You know, the steward of Gondor, yeah, he burns himself, but there's no
man.
Yeah, so there's all this stuff going on. Even the stuff that we do get on screen, like Nick's very, very accurate portrayal of him there, you know, but
we get the hobbits. We get the 4 hobbits, very in focus. We get Aragorn, Gandalf, and Frodo. Frodo and Sam, basically. Those are our main characters, which is fine.
Really, it's mostly Frodo and Sam. I mean, we get Gandalf every now and then, and you know what? From a standpoint of what they could do with the budget they probably had, the time allotted for an animated film, and I think they did as absolutely good as they probably could have done here. I don't think, like when I was watching this, I said, you know what? I wish this was something that was made now where they said, okay, you have 10 episodes to animate this and go through the story. Because I think it would have been great. Like, I love this studio's animation. Well, it's actually a mix of two studios. Some Western studios were doing the actual concept art and the idea and the story, and then they would send it off to a Japanese company to actually do all the animation. And that Japanese company would eventually become Studio Ghibli, or they would branch off and become that. So
that's so sick.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, when I was watching, so Nick, if you guys haven't seen on the channel, Nick had me watch, along with expert Kyle, a lot of the Studio Ghibli films that I'd never seen any of them. And especially, I think, Porco Rosso and another one, I can't remember.
Princess
I heard
Mononoke?
a lot of the same sound effects that was used in The Hobbit and this Return of the King. You can hear those reused like as like a Foley library in some of these films. So like there's a lot of carryover. And because it's these two companies working in tandem from different parts of the world, the art style in these animated films I've never really seen in other places. Oh, it's Howl's Moving Castle. Like the creases and the wrinkles and the old lady looks just like the goblins and the orcs. And I just think it looks so cool and unique. And so I love this film, like The Hobbit, but man, they just didn't have enough time to do what they were setting out to do.
Definitely. I mean, if they had all the time Rings of Power had to tell a story, they might have actually been able to accomplish something. But talking about animated Lord of the Rings, we do have an animated Rohirrim Lord of the Rings story coming. So I'm super stoked for that. Yeah, I'm super stoked for that. There's not too much on it, just kind of rumors. But I love anything animated. Like I'm a sucker for it. Like we just went through Primal, which is a lot of fun on HBO Max. It's very much Conan the Barbarian, but it's animated form and it's just so much fun. It's so good. We really like that show here. You should go check it out. It's really good. And every episode's only like 20 minutes. And they do such a good job of showing and not telling. But let's get back to Return of the King here. Yeah. And I just want to talk about the songs.
Montage.
Frodo of the Nine Fingers, less can be more to the lands beyond the sea.
Where there's a whip, there's a way.
Time is moving fast.
Win the battle, lose the war. Frodo of the Nine Fingers.
Now that years have slipped away.
There's so many songs.
I had forgotten. So I usually do not like song. I hate musicals.
You hate them. That's a strong word.
Yeah, it's strong. The only musical I ever liked is Aladdin at Disneyland. That's the only one I ever liked. But
okay.
When you think about songs, Hobbit had some great songs, but they were spread out throughout the movie at pretty long intervals from what I recollect. And I've seen that movie a lot. This Return of the King had some really cool songs like Frodo the Nine Fingers, and then the orc song where there's a right, yeah,
there is a way.
You know, those two songs really stood out to me as being very good, and I like how they use the orchestration themes without the words throughout the film, especially for Frodo the Nine Fingers and the one other like kind of overarching theme. But at the same time, they had a lot of songs where I was actually getting, okay, well, here's another musical number. Here we go. You know, it
would have been great if like the orcs started like tap dancing or something too, like breaking out in like a.
Well, when Samwise got them all riled up and they're doing the little dance in place thing, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, I was like, what is this going on here? But yeah. Did you like the songs overall? Were you kind of like me where you liked them?
Fun.
But there's just too many.
Definitely from its time era. I feel like this is like 100% like this would have been directly on TV. Like you would have to have musicals to go along with it, because back then it was like you have to put music with it so you can also make money off of a CD. You know what I mean? They were always looking for more ways to make money. Off
you mean the LP?
Oh yeah, whatever.
Record?
Yeah, whatever it was on at the time. I know. It was a CD when I was a kid and a cassette, but cassette tape.
Do you remember as many songs in The Hobbit though?
I can pull up my LP of it.
I know he has the LP. I scanned the art of it because it was so cool. But there's some songs in The Hobbit for sure. There's some really good ones.
The Great Adventure, right, or whatever.
I love that one. And you know that you've hit it big when South Park makes fun of you in the South Park games. And I think a couple episodes, the great, like the tremolo from this singer guy
that's
like,
when the gerbil is going through the butt,
gerbil.
right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Great adventure is waiting for you ahead. Hurry onward, Lemmywinks, or you will soon be dead.
That's South Park, not the Return of the King movie, guys.
I don't know. I'm just kidding. No. Okay, so there was a scene where obviously they're running low on water and they fall down this cave or hole or something like that, and he goes into like a daydream, or no, he has like a nightmare, and I was like, whoa, this is so interesting to show. Like they're on the grass chilling, the orcs walk by and they wait. Like, what is
I know. I was like, what's there? A few of the dream sequences, like Sam's dream sequence and then Frodo's, like Frodo's dream sequence, is that him and like Sam when they were kids playing together, or was that them being old and their kids playing together? Like,
I don't know, because orcs are there at the time, and I don't know if they knew about
that was
orcs.
the one. Yeah, that was the one spot where I was like,
oh yeah,
okay.
the one with kids. Yeah, I think it was a future thing.
Oh, a future.
I think
thing.
it was like his family, like in the future kind of thing. That's my guess. Not 100% correct or not, but I was like, cool, okay, I'm down. I mean, the hobbits smoke weed. They can do whatever they want when they go into a daydream.
I mean, I thought it was kind of cool that, you know, they're both kind of being drawn by the ring. And, you know, we get these cool shots in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings where you just see the torment in their eyes, and you know, Frodo's especially kind of reaching for the ring subconsciously and things like that. But you never really know what he's thinking. Whereas here, they really show you this is Sam's. What's the ring projecting into Sam in his soul? Like, hey, if you take the ring, you can do this and that. You can be Samwise the Strong, and then you can use it to grow your garden and do good things, buddy. You know, and then Frodo's having this whole different thing. It's some cool thoughts and ideas that I really do appreciate that they took. Like, hey, they didn't stray from the story really at all here, aside from omitting things. But they still, as far as kind of the moments where, okay, what is
the heart of and soul of the story still there, right?
Yes, the heart and soul. Yeah. But I mean, they didn't go off and do stuff as stupid crazy as Rings of Power, right?
No,
it's still faithful to the book and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I also like too, just by them holding the ring.
I thought those are some cool looking scenes, how they project the power. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only time you get that in, I think it's beginning of Return of the King, when Sam is storming up the tower to try and rescue Frodo, you see his shadow getting, But aside from that, I mean, here, like, you see, you know, like,
he talks to the goblin and everything too.
Yeah, you see like Gaunt Frodo, Gaunt Samwise, and then but when they're holding the ring, even though if they don't know it, they just project this power, which is like, that's kind of cool. You know, that's kind of a cool depiction of it. Yeah.
And then we got to talk about the Witch King.
Yeah. So what did you think of the Nazgul? That's, to me, one of the only downsides of the Witch King and the Nazgul. But what did you think of them?
I mean, I'm trying to remember what they were in the book, and I think they're in the book. They're just spirit with glowing eyes, just like how the eye is supposed to be mostly just a spirit kind of thing. You know what I mean? Where it's very like, and obviously they had to do something in the Peter Jackson film to kind of ground it a little bit more in reality. So they put the cloak over the spirit.
Yeah.
And then they put a helmet over the cloak. So it's like, you know, at least there's still some kind of form to it. You know what I mean? Because a floating eyes with the head, like, that's definitely a stylized choice that they went with, which was different than the other Nazgul from the animated series. Remember he's like,
oh, you mean by the way, when we're talking about the other animated series, we're talking about the Ralph Bakshi animated one, where they use a lot of actors filmed and they rotoscope and trace and fill in and stuff like that. Yeah, those are almost like more like zombie Nazgul.
Yeah,
still cool. But like they had a good look.
Even when they're on the beast, remember, like it was like a heavy metal cover.
Metal, yeah. Yeah, you know what? I didn't really like the look of the Nazgul. I like a lot of almost all the creature designs and all the artistic choices in The Hobbit and this Return of the King animated, but the Nazgul didn't look like when I think Frodo and Sam are first entering into Mordor, you see one flying, you know, above the clouds and the moon, and just kind of has this like these weird teeth and stuff. Yeah. And it didn't look as intimidating as like, say, the orcs or the goblins or things like that. But you know, it still had a cool idea. And by the way, that standoff between the Witch King and Gandalf is very much reminiscent of a really cool piece of artwork that was done, I think, back in the 70s for Lord of the Rings. If we can find it, I'll forward it to Nick and maybe we can put it up on screen briefly. But it's a cool looking piece of art.
Which they ended up doing in the extended edition of Lord of the Rings, right? They have that moment.
Oh, I don't remember.
I think they have the moment between Gandalf and the Witch King. And remember, he breaks his staff.
Oh,
Or he's like,
that's
you
right.
remember?
That's
And then he
right.
like knocks him off his horse, but then they go,
That's right. I'm thinking more composition.
right now.
Yeah, how I can't remember what it looked like in the Peter Jackson movies, but in the animated film, it looked composition wise
more
like the
like-
side
okay.
version, very much like that art piece. But you're right, he does have that thing with Gandalf.
But it's
and
not in the
finish.
original. It's in the extended edition. I mean, because they put a lot in that movie.
Yes, yeah.
And it was also very interesting to see the humans designs because I got very much Lake Town, the men of Lake Town. Like Aragorn,
yeah.
almost like in my head, I'm like, he looks just like they just took the whole character design sheet for the men
Yeah.
of Dale. Or what's the guy's name that shoots the arrow or the archer?
Yeah.
Is it just the men? I can't remember the guy's name, the archer's name, but
Lake Town.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I can remember the guy's name who shot the arrow. King Dale maybe or something like that. But
I think it might be Dale.
yeah. But yeah, he basically reminded me of him. And it was very sad to see him traveling without Gimli and Legolas.
Yeah, you know what? They probably did not have the time. That's
Yeah.
more characters they have to create. And I think it's just, man, I mean, I really
Which
wish
is fine.
they had
I'm
an
not
opportunity
angry.
to do. Oh no,
Yeah.
but I really wish they would have had the whole opportunity to do the whole thing, because if they had Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King, you would care about these characters they'd be potentially putting on screen.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's like, they're not going to get an idea. Do we just show it for fan service where here's Legolas and Gimli? They didn't need to.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was talking about it earlier, I think they did the best they could with the time and the budget they had. It's like, all right, if you only have X amount of time, X amount of budget, instead of telling all these stories, you just focus on this story. And it was mostly Frodo and Sam's.
Yeah.
And I think that was a smart choice.
Which is what the story's based off of, realistically. Don't get me wrong. Like that is the heart of the story. Even the original books. Yeah, everyone loves Aragorn's story probably more than Frodo's story, because Frodo's just with Sam alone in the desert wasteland for days upon days, where there's a lot more action happening with Aragorn's story, but that's the heart and soul of the whole thing, because it's all about a fool's hope, the only chance we have lays with these two little hobbits, or three if you want to count.
Speaking of which, is hardly in this movie, less than I even remembered. I thought he played a bigger role in this, but man, he only pops up in a couple.
He's fast
spots.
He's a fast little bugger, man. You
He's-
see the way he runs away? He almost looked like one of those green characters, like from the back, because he has like hair hanging off his butt in like a tail form. He reminded me of those green characters from the Looney Tunes with Marvin the Martian. I don't know why I'm thinking about.
By the way, the guy that does the voice acting for him, he's in one of my other favorite movies. It's a Tom Hanks movie called The Burbs. If you guys have ever seen it, it's an old comedy movie, but he plays this nutty neighbor. The guy's name is Theodore, just goes by Theodore. And later he's called Brother Theodore, but he has this really, really precious, he has that voice, even his other roles. But I love Gollum's voice in this, especially in The Hobbit. And but obviously I think they did a great job with Andy Serkis in the new ones. But I love Gollum's voice here as well. But he's not there very long.
No, and he's just there for what he has to do: jump in joy and fall. Like that. I mean, that's really like the whole luck and like the chance of, because they spared his life so many times, he saved the world.
and really, I think I found this movie enjoyable because many years ago I forgot some of the particulars about the book, but I did read the books. Nick and I obviously are huge fans of the Peter Jackson movies. We've seen the animated stuff. If you hadn't seen the movies or read the books, I don't think this animated film would have made any sense whatsoever.
Nope,
because
not at all.
It's like we have the context to fill in the gaps here, but if you hadn't seen that stuff, you're like, oh, okay.
If you just jumped into this movie too, no. Because you'd be like,
it'd have been very challenging to be the people making this movie.
So
It's
who's
like,
the
how
guy
do we
with
make this
stars around his head at the dinner table?
Yeah. Man, I love that design for Elrond. I love those stars around the head.
But like, you know what I mean? Like you're popping in
exactly.
there. Like, who's that guy? Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's there at the end. Okay.
I'm almost curious. Are they assuming that you watch the Ralph Bakshi and they're just finishing up the Ralph Bakshi film?
I don't know. There's a lot of assuming here. Assuming he's making an ass out of me and you, right?
Because, I mean, that's the only other way you would have seen this, because we didn't have the Peter Jackson movies at the time. So unless you read the books, the only way you'd have been filled in on what's happening in the first 2/3 of the story is if you watched the Ralph Bakshi animated.
Or, the Russian one wasn't out yet, right?
And it was not in the Western world.
By the way, we covered the Russian Lord of the Rings that just got released.
Man.
Kyle has a weird fetish thing with this lady. You should go watch it.
And just released as in we were getting to see it in the West. It's an old thing. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't mean. I just love bringing up that it's just so wonky and out there.
Yeah, no.
And
So you and I had talked about how there was so many songs. Do you think
Yes.
they had so many songs to try and fill in the gaps of what they didn't have time to really show on screen? Do
I
you
don't
think
know.
that's why they
I
had
don't know
so
if
many?
it just hurt taking away from the story.
Mm.
Like even the dream sequences. Like I get all the dream sequences, but like at the point of what. But then again, it's like what else are they gonna do with Aragorn at that point? You know what I mean? Like there's no need. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they basically covered their bases. Like I mean the mouth of Sauron made it in. I don't know why Gimli in.
Yeah.
It's so interesting the things they choose to like include. Like when King Theoden dies, and I'm like I know who he is because of Peter Jackson, but like in my whole thing, like wait, he died because of darkness?
I know. I was like,
And the dark fell upon him. Dark force had claimed our savior.
Oh, okay. I guess I can buy that. Like, I mean, maybe if the foul beast would have bit his horse and swung him around and threw him out, he probably would have been more of a better death. But
yeah.
darkness just killed your king out of nowhere. Like, I don't know. I mean, did that happen in the books? Now I'm like really second guessing what happened in the
I think he
books.
got hurt. I mean, I
Okay.
might be recalling incorrectly, but I did like the idea that, hey, the war over here is, the ebb and flow of the war is all based on what's going on with Samwise and Frodo, and that's how they were transitioning. I did like that idea, but yeah, I was like, boy, he really had a bad fall.
At least shoot him with an arrow.
Boromir had a much better send off than that. Come on, you guys. Yeah.
I mean,
No, Boromir in the animated got shot 50 times.
yeah, it was intense. Yeah, it was so intense actually. Yeah. It never ended.
But
it's so
you know
good.
what though? What they depicted, I love the style. I thought some of the choices were interesting. It's just they just didn't have. One of the most interesting things to me while I was watching this is I wonder what the pre-production process was like. All right, we're going to spend some time telling this. We have to cut this out. It's going to be too. Like I would have loved to have more insight on the production of this because this would have been so hard.
That was kind of like the Ralph's version, right? Because like there was a lot too he wanted to do in the movies for the Lord of the Rings animated series.
Yeah.
With the two towers, he wanted to do all three of them, I think, originally, and then it got cut
I think
back.
so. I think it's because it did so poorly in theaters. I think.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to do the third half, and there's like it just didn't perform well. And then I think that's why these guys came in and finished it up. But obviously, it's a completely different type of movie.
Yeah, and overall, I enjoyed it. Maybe because I know the story so well.
Yes.
And I was able to connect things. And you know what it reminded me of? Like I would almost. It reminded me of like a YouTuber like explaining the book of Return of the Kings with like characters that they're drawing and stuff like that. I mean, obviously I'm not trying to downgrade this animated thing, but you know what I mean? Like because of the narration that was going on, Theoden, the king, was riding in with his horses and then darkness hit him. But it's like, there was like so much explaining going on with the different things. With,
a lot.
It was Gandalf, right? Was it Gandalf
Yeah, it was
explaining?
mostly Gandalf, yeah.
But he would like narrate certain things happening, and then like Pippin had to use the restroom, so he took a break, whatever whatever the narration was. I can't remember, but they killed Denethor, which I thought was pretty dark. How he burnt himself, and I'm like, oh dang, that they did that,
I like how they still did the line, and thus passes King, like or
and then
Steward.
There's like a hut with like smoke coming out of it. I'm like, oh, meat's back on the menu, boys. It's but.
And it's funny how, they spent some time with his whole monologue on how he knew it was going to happen because of the,
the Palantir.
Yeah. But at the same time, other things they just jumped straight past. So it's like interesting, the moments that they chose to dwell on. I think the whole reason they did that is because he was able to get across a lot of story, just him talking about it.
Like there's no hope, basically. The whole idea was like, we're doomed. And even Gandalf's like, what's the point, Pippin?
Well, it's interesting because I had thought in the movies, and I admittedly I read the books so many years back that I don't remember exactly what happened there, but I thought that it gave you a glimpse of the future that could happen, but not necessarily going to happen. Whereas in this animated film, it's like Gandalf was saying, like, yeah, it never lies. What's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah, I believe so. Who the user can show you what they think. Like the idea, like when Pippin, he saw the enemy's plans, kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like he shared the enemy plans with him, but Pippin had to share info with him and stuff like that. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Everyone does it their own way. I feel like even in Rings of Power, I thought it was weird too that it showed the future and it was like the same vision kind of thing. So I don't know. It's very interesting the way those balls work. Magical balls.
But yeah, you know what? I appreciate that it exists. I had wanted to see this for many, many years. So Warner Brothers, I think, is the one that the studio that owns these. And I remember when The Hobbit came out on DVD many years ago, I got it right away. And they did a horrible transfer of that. It only had one of the 2 audio channels. So all the sound effects of like the sword and stuff were just missing. I'm like, what the hell happened to this? You know, it's like the VHS is better than this. And then around that same time, Return of the King was released as well. But you can imagine, you know, if you project yourself back into that period of time, the only place you could get DVDs, there wasn't really Amazon or through the mail and stuff. So if you want to get a DVD, you need to go to somewhere like Best Buy or something and actually buy it. And yeah, Blockbuster and stuff like that. But they had limited space, and Return of the King, this abstract old animated film, was not high up on stocking priorities. And so it was actually hard to find this back then. And so it wasn't until more recent times they were actually like, oh, let's give this a view. So I'm glad we're able to see it. I really love this art style and the sound effects and, you know, creature design as much as I ever did, and just as much as in The Hobbit. But story-wise, again, Hobbit's a 300-page book. They knew what they were getting into. You're not trying to wrap up and basically backtrack on 2 other movies or 2 other books previous to that. And so this was really an impossible task. I'm actually surprised they actually took it on, but I'm glad it exists.
When you need money, you need money. I'm just kidding. I'm not saying that's the reason, but money does create ways for things to get done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? It was fascinating for me just to wonder how they made the choices and, you know, the constraints they were having to process within.
Yeah. And on that note, guys, go to azart.space for audio and video links. We got cool shirts there. The Shire is burning, so Mordor it is. Come on, guys, let's go. Go to azart.space to get all the fun shirts. Kyle, our designer / other host / very intelligent man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, he's a well-read Gandalf. We refer him to as a
he's
expert
a macer,
Gandalf,
right?
Yeah.
He's designed shirts and stuff like that. So I mean, it's been fun working with him, but it's also just been fun talking about Lord of the Rings. Anytime we get a chance to talk about Lord of the Rings, me and John are all over it. If it's
it's fun stuff.
The Soviets version of Lord of the Rings too, animated features, and even if it's Ring of Powers, it's just something that gives us a reason to talk about. One, Peter Jackson's films, which I think is the greatest trilogy of all time. Like, I can't think of a greater trilogy of movies. Like, it's so funny because when you think of them, you're not which one's the worst, it's which one's the best. There's not even a worse conversation when you think of all 3 of them. Like, he did such a good job, and it's just fun to talk about Lord of the Rings. We can do this all day, all night.
It's really fun.
Until the red sun rises. Blood has been spilt this night.
By the way, we're recording this in the very beginnings of October 2022. If you guys are like Lord of the Rings and you're looking for a game on Prime Gaming, if you have a Prime subscription, you get it for free. A really cool, I think it's Shadow of War. It's a really cool, almost like Assassin's Creed.
Cool.
Lord of the Rings game. Really, really cool. You guys should check it out. You can grab that for free for the month of October 2022. If you're looking at this way down the road, then yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's awesome. Where do you play it on?
It's a PC game.
Oh, PC game.
Prime Gaming for PC. Yeah.
Nice.
But really, really cool game. It's like the sequel to another one. I haven't played the sequel. I played the first one. It was really fun.
Shadow of Mordor.
I think it's Shadow of War, or it's maybe that was the name of the first one. I can't recall. But if you guys just go to look up Prime Gaming, it'll pop up for you. Really cool.
There you have it. And we'll see you on the next Azart.
All right.
Frodo of the 9 fingers.
And the Ring of Doom.
And Frodo with 10. No, not Frodo. Sam with 10.
Oh my God.